How's it going, guys? Let's take a look at the Sorcerer in the 2024 Player's Handbook Playtest number 7. We'll be comparing this Sorcerer back to the 2014 Sorcerer from the Player's Handbook, and I think there's some subclasses here that are coming out of Tasha's. They're just being used as is, so we won't look at those again. So on the left here we have the 2014 Sorcerer, on the right the 2024 Sorcerer, and if we look at the table we can see the new items here. Innate Sorcery at first, Meta Magic moves from 3rd to 2nd, Sorcerer subclass moves from 1st to 3rd, and then Sorcerer's Restoration is new at 5th, Sorcery Incarnate new at 7th, while Sorcerer's Restoration got moved all the way down from 20th to 5th, and then Arcana Apotheosis takes the 20th level spot. You'll note the prepared spells used to be spells known, and also there's more of them now, up to a maximum of 22, matching the number of spell slots per spell level totaled up. And weapons are simplified from the list of weapons to just all simple weapons. The equipment is 50 gold pieces now, with a spear, taking the simple weapon choice here of choice B, an arcane focus, and then a Dungeoneer's pack, and 2 daggers, and some gold. Level 1 sorcery class feature, Innate Sorcery, is a new class feature. As a bonus action, and then lasting for a minute, your spell save DCs of your sorcerer spells increases by 1, and you have advantage on the attack rolls of sorcerer spells. So 2 combats out of a day, you're going to be rolling all your cantrips with advantage. That's pretty strong. And you get that back when you finish a long rest. Then there's some other things that build on this, and there's a way to get it back in addition to the long rest. Later on we'll see here. Cantrip, you can replace them just like a lot of things are doing nowadays as you gain levels. We're back to a spell list by class, so there's a sorcerer spell list instead of using the arcane spell list. And it follows the 2014 Player's Handbook with the addition of Sorceress Burst and Arcane Eruption, a cantrip and a level 4 spell, which I'll get to when I go over the spells. We come here to changing your prepared spells. As you gain sorcerer levels, you can replace one of your spells. Converting spell slots to sorcery points. Okay, so here's the level 2 Font of Magic. It's largely the same, except for a couple little tweaks here. So sorcery points, you can convert spell slots to sorcery points. If you need a sorcery point to pull off some meta magic, you can just get it right away. You don't have to spend a bonus action to get it. And then creating spell slots, they added a little caveat here about your minimum sorcerer level. Now that didn't matter at spell levels 1, 2, and 3 because you had to have this level to get this many sorcery points. But levels 4 and 5, you could have got the item before you actually could cast that slot level, and they added a little minimum sorcerer level thing for that. Okay, level 2, meta magic moves from level 3 down to level 2, and when you gain sorcerer levels, you replace one of your meta magic options. Level 3, the sorcerer subclass. Level 5, sorceress restoration. So when you roll initiative or finish a short rest and have no sorcery points remaining, you regain the number of those points equal to your sorcerer level divided by 5. The whole mechanic of having no things remaining, it's kind of, I think, unnecessary. You could just do it. You do have to have a mechanic of not going over your maximum. This looks like it's a lot, but it's 1 at levels 5 through 9, and 2 at 10 through 14, and finally 3 at 15 through 19, and finally 4 at 20th level. Level 7, Sorcery Incarnate. So when you're using your Sorcery Innate Sorcery feature, you can put 2 meta magic options on each spell you cast. And if you have no uses of your sorcery left, you can use it if you spend 2 sorcery points when you take the bonus action to activate it. So, I mean, that's a lot, because by the time you're level 7, of course, you have 7, and you can spend slots to get more back. And so you should be able to use that quite a bit, like every big battle of an adventure. And then finally, level 20, which you'll almost never see. While your innate sorcery feature is active, you can do a meta magic option on each of your turns without spending sorcery points on it. Meta magic options, largely the same as before. Extended spell adds this thing if the affected spell requires concentration. You have advantage on any saving throws you make to maintain that concentration, so that's new. Heightened spell went from a cost of 3 points down to a cost of 2 points. Quicken spell, it says you can't modify a spell in this way if you've already cast a spell of level 1 or higher on the current turn, nor can you cast a spell of level 1 or higher on this turn after modifying a spell in this way. And that makes sense. I mean, that fits with the current 2014 rule where if you cast a spell with a bonus action, the only other spell you can cast must be a cantrip. And so it's kind of duplicating that wording. It's like this isn't needed unless they change that other rule somehow. On to Seeking Spell. This is a new one. 1 sorcery point. When you make an attack roll for a spell and it misses, you can spend a sorcery point to re-roll the d20, and you must use the new roll. You can use Seeking Spell even if you have already used a different meta magic option during the casting of the spell. So Subtle Spell. When you cast a spell, you can spend 1 sorcery point to cast it without any verbal, somatic, or material components. So that's pretty strong. and it'll interact with a counterspell in a way that you can not be counterspelled as often. Transmuted spell, 1 sorcery point. Cast a spell that deals a type of damage from the following list. You can spend 1 sorcery point to change that damage type to one of the other listed types. This is very, very, very strong. You can, basically get around creatures with high resistances or immunities pretty easily now with that 1 point. So I think it's maybe too strong. Maybe it should be 2 sorcery points there. Twin spell, big change here. Now when you cast a spell such as Charm Person or a Hold Person that can be cast with a higher level spell slot to target an additional creature, you can spend 1 sorcery point and increase the spell's effective level by 1. So that's a pretty elegant solution to the much more convoluted current twin spell. Now let's look at the Sorcerer subclasses. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, Aberrant Sorcery is in, and Clockwork Sorcery is in. Draconic Sorcery comes from the 2014 Player's Handbook. And at level 3, you get Draconic Resilience. As part of the Draconic Resilience, your hit point maximum goes up by 3 plus 1 per level instead of 1 per level. And your armor class is 10 plus Dex plus Charisma modifier. It used to be 13 plus Dex. So you're going to have a Charisma modifier greater than 13 pretty early in your career. So that's going to be stronger. Not terribly stronger. Dragon Speech, you can speak, read, and write Draconic like before. There's the charisma check thing that you used to get before is removed, and now your speech can be understood by all creatures of the dragon subtype, which can be more helpful than an advantage on a charisma check if they know what you're saying. Elemental Affinity, choose one of these types. So interestingly, you don't pick what type of dragon you are. You don't pick your ancestry. Instead, you are just Draconic, a Draconic Sorcerer. You pick the type of damage, acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. You'll have resistance to that. You used to have to spend a sorcery point to get that resistance for an hour. Now you just get it all the time. So that's stronger. You have resistance to that damage type. Cast a spell that deals damage to that type. You add your charisma modifier, same as before. Dragon Wings back to level 14. They last, now you dismiss them as a bonus action on your turn. They also now end if you have incapacitated. And when they manifest, they can be spectral or physical, so you don't have to worry about armor if you make them spectral. Draconic Presence is a bonus action now instead of an action, and it lasts until you're incapacitated, no concentration. Creatures are affected until they are outside the area if they fail their save. It's kind of a strange mechanic. Basically, they're stuck being frightened of you for a minute. And usually frightened will give you some sort of resave. I'd be interested to see a resave there, some sort of mechanic like that. Wild Magic Sorcery. Okay, let's look at the Wild Magic. So they're going in for Wild Magic here. Level 3, no more than once per turn, you decide. It used to be once per turn, the DM can have you roll d20 after you cast a Sorcerer spell. Now, that's only once per long rest, but then the Tides of Chaos kicks in where they can take advantage on a d20 roll. Let's see, you can manipulate the forces. Okay, then immediately after you cast a Sorcerer spell with a spell slot, before you regain the use of this feature, you automatically roll on the Wild Magic search table and regain the use of this feature. I don't like that this is automatically. It'd be nice if it said you can roll at any time later, because otherwise it's like, boom, you're automatically doing Wild Magic next round. You don't control that. So I'd like to change that a little bit to give the player a little bit more control back over that. And is it automatic? Yeah, it's basically automatic. Not a 1 in 20 chance, but just always. So I used to do it all the time. Wild Magic was a 1 in 20, and it wasn't the player's choice. Now it's like the player's choice, and it's still only a 1 in 20 chance for a kickoff. Then we got Bend Luck immediately after. So here's one where it's a d20 roll, but you don't know the result. And it looks like they're a little afraid to go in on that and say it that way. Because they don't say it that way. They just say immediately after another creature you can see rolls a d20 test. Usually would say if they succeed or fail. With the new way they word things, they don't have that this time. So it says you can use your reaction and spend 1 sorcery point to roll a d4. This used to be 2 sorcery points, and Jeremy in his review talked about how it was a d6. So I bet they were playing back and forth between making it 1 or making it a d6, and they chose to make it 1, and Jeremy was just misremembering, changing it to 1 and to a d6. Controlled Chaos is unchanged. Wild Bombardment, new name for spell Bombardment. This one I don't like. You can create an effect of your choice from the Wild Magic search table. I mean, that's like a free fireball with every time you casting a spell, provided the effect lasts. Cast a spell restores all your expended sorcery points. And I also don't like effects that are multiple long rests to recover, especially random long rests to recover. So I'd kind of rework the Wild Bombardment. That is the Sorcerer. What do you think of it? Leave your thoughts and comments in the messages in the chat below. I'd love to know what you think. And next up is going to be the Warlock. Thanks for watching, guys.